Hello, welcome once again, and Merry Christmas. I'm recording this for Christmas Eve. I hope you are all out there enjoying time with friends and family. If you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you're having a good time anyway. I'm Paul Engel. I'm here with the Constitution Study. We are here with the expressed intent of reading and studying the Constitution so that we can all remain free, so we can return the Constitution to its rightful owners, we the people of the United States of America. I'm recording this early so I can celebrate the Christmas holiday with my family, but I wanted to spend some time and I wanted to talk about something it's been in the news for a while. It was actually in the news a while back and I wanted to cover it, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knows I'm glad you could be here. I'm glad you come. If this is your first one, well, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your first episode of the Constitution Study. I hope you'll head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Learn more. You can listen to more episodes, read more articles, find out more about what we're doing. You can join the mailing list. You'll get some free reading material. Most of all, I hope you ask questions. I love getting questions. And while this isn't from a question, ask anyway. I answer them as quickly as I can. And frequently I turn them into not only articles on the website, but episodes on the podcast. And who knows, if your questions are really, really good, maybe I'll have you on the podcast to discuss this particular question with me. So I'm glad you're there. Again, this website is constitutionstudy.com. Head on over, find out more. If you are a returning listener, if this is not your first time, well, Merry Christmas to you as well. I'm glad you came back. It is the dedication, the willingness to learn and educate ourselves that will make a difference in this nation, that will turn us from a continuing devolvement into a tyranny from the federal government back into the land of the free and the home of the brave with this idea of self-government that our founders purchased for us. So I'm glad you're here. I hope you'll find this useful. I came to this message, as I often do. I look at what's going on in the news and I hear a lot of discussion and I hear a lot of talk. What I don't hear a lot of is good information about the Constitution. It's amazing how in a single topic, we'll hear people say the Constitution says this, or that it says something the exact opposite. And the topic that picked this one up is the concept of birthright citizenship. I was reading about an interview that President Trump had with Axios, I guess they're on HBO, and Trump stated that his staff is preparing an executive order to end birthright citizenship in the United States. Now, you might expect, right, this caused quite a kerfuffle. There was a lot of discussion. There was a lot of debate. Does the Constitution allow this? Is birthright citizenship legal? Does the president have the authority to change this policy by executive order? And unfortunately, like I said, most of what I heard had absolutely very little to do with U.S. Constitution or U.S. law. So I decided to do some research and, here we read and we study the Constitution itself. So let's take a look at birthright citizenship based on what the Constitution itself says. Now, most of the debate around birthright citizenship centers around the 14th Amendment's citizenship clause. This clause states that while it's only a small part of the 14th Amendment, it really had a very important tool. It was a very important part of it. You see, there were serious issues in the South after they lost the Civil War. And with the passage of the 13th Amendment, which banned slavery. Now, some Southern states passed laws infringing on the rights of newly freed slaves. These so-called black codes restricted these men and women from voting, serving on juries, working in certain jobs, even their ability to marry, and more. You see, while the slaves had been free in many of the former Confederate states, they were not treated as citizens. Enter the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment section, I think it's clause 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. You see, by ensuring that newly freed slaves, or at least the ones who were born in America, were citizens, they received the protections of Article 4, Section 2, removing any question that these black codes were unconstitutional. See, Article 4, Section 2 says the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. See, the 14th Amendment said if you're born in the United States and you are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, you are a citizen of the United States, and the states can't treat you otherwise. They have to give you all the privileges and immunities of a citizen of the states. Now, enter this idea of birthright citizenship. You see, contrary to what you've been told by the majority of people, at least once I've heard and read talking about this, the 14th Amendment does not grant citizenship to anyone who is born in the United States. They must also be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States as well. So, what does it mean to be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States? Well, subject is defined as being under the power and dominion of another, as Jamaica is subject to Great Britain. And jurisdiction is defined as power of governing or legislating. The legislature of one state can exercise no jurisdiction over another. By the way, those both come from Webster's 1828 dictionary. So to be subject to the jurisdiction means to be under the power and dominion of another governing body. Now, a person who is living in the United States is subject to our laws, but is that what Congress meant by this language? Well, not according to the man who authored the amendment to the bill that eventually became the 14th Amendment, Senator Jacob Merritt Howard of Michigan. See, he proposed to change the language of the proposed amendment to include and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, quoting from the Congressional Globe, the constitutionally required record of everything that happens in Congress, we read, quote, "This amendment which I have offered is simply declaratory of what I regard as the law of the land already, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to this jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and national law a citizen of the United States. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of person." See, the idea of the meaning subject to the jurisdiction thereof meant those who are not citizens of another nation. And this was summed up quite nicely by Senator Reverdy Johnson of Maryland. I simply wish they had used his language rather than Senator Howard's, but he said in this debate, quote, "Now all this amendment provides is that all persons born in the United States and not subject to some foreign power, for that, no doubt, is the meaning of the committee who have brought the matter before us, shall be considered as citizens of the United States," close quote. See, it's well-established legal precedent that when any ambiguity exists in the law, one must determine as best as possible the intent of those writing the law. There is no possible way to interpret the language of Senator Howard or of Senator Senator Johnson, got that wrong, Senator Howard or Johnson, to mean anything else than people who are born in the United States and not subject to a foreign power. It's simple. They're not citizens of another nation. They aren't born that way. See, this is confirmed in no uncertain terms by Senator Johnson's words. That's exactly what he said. It's quite obvious that the research and understanding of this language is beyond comprehension of many of today's pundits, politicians, and even justices of this nation. It's simple. It's placed right there, but they don't want to see it. You see, for decades, it's been claimed by many that the simple act of being born within the borders of the United States grants you the privileges of citizenship. However, no such language can be found in either the Constitution or federal law. In fact, the only case I could find regarding question of citizenship to those born to foreigners is the 1898 Supreme Court case, United States versus Wong Kim Ark. In this case, the court decided that the child of a Chinese couple with permanent residency status in the United States, but being subject to the Emperor of China, was a citizen. You see, in the opinion of the court, permanent residency status means the resident is subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. By history, precedent, and basic sound jurisprudence, that is a weak position at best, but it is at least a defensible one. See, as we've already discussed, the understanding of the text when it was ratified was that subject to the jurisdiction thereof excluded both foreigners and aliens. So if the Constitution and federal law say that only persons who are subject to the United States at birth are citizens, why does the government grant citizenship to those who are not subject to them? That's a very good question. Unfortunately, the answer seems to be we don't follow our laws anymore, or at least not when it's inconvenient for certain political figures and their supporters. Now, there's another important part to this entire discussion, and that is, can President Trump effectively change birthright citizenship by executive order? Now, it's interesting. 8 U.S. Code 1401 says a person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof qualifies for citizenship. And that brings us to the final question. The president plans to end birthright citizenship by executive order. Now, we don't know what that executive order says yet, so we can't determine if the order is constitutional or not. Now, I found no disagreement amongst any of the pundits or lawyers that I've heard that Congress could pass a law amending 8 U.S. 1401 to clarify that subject to the jurisdiction thereof means they are not subject to the jurisdiction of another nation. But can the president do that? Well, the case can be made that since the purpose of the citizenship clause, as stated by those who framed it, was to limit citizenship to those born in the United States and not subject to a foreign power, therefore, in order to execute the laws of the United States, the president could direct those in the executive branch to only grant citizenship to those who meet the full requirements of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, would this be challenged in court? Almost assuredly. In fact, I'm not a betting man, but I'd almost be willing to lay money it would be. Would the federal courts follow the stated meaning of the 14th Amendment? I'm much less certain about that. In fact, I'm almost positive that the Supreme Court would not. And that is really where a lot of the problem lies. See, the farther we drift from the actual language of the Constitution, the farther we drift into chaos and eventual tyranny. And that's why discussions like this, the willingness to bring this up into the light and not yell at each other, but discuss it, look for what is true, what is actually written in the law, is the best way to restore sanity to our nation. Now, I'm sure there are people that disagree with me, and I'd love them. Head to the website. There's an article I posted back on November 7th that talks about this, or you can post comments to this podcast episode. Tell me where I got this wrong. Show me where in the law, not somebody's interpretation, not someone's opinion, but where in the law do you see jurisdiction thereof mean simply the fact that they're under our laws? See, if it's just the fact that you're subject to our speeding laws, our traffic laws, well, then jurisdiction thereof means absolutely nothing. That's the question. So head over to the website, comment, ask a question. Tell me where you think I got it wrong. I'll be more than happy to go over it on the website just as publicly. All I ask is that we be honest, we be looking for the truth, not yelling at each other, and that you base it on legal documents. Understand the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Find it there and show me where I'm wrong. I hope people try. I really do. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it made you think, not simply react to this concept of birthright citizenship. I hope I'll see you again. I hope you'll head over to the website, constitutionstudy.com. Maybe pick up one of my books. I've got books published at amazon.com. You can go to amazon.com/author/Paul Engel, Paulengel, all one word, and read more about what we're working on. I've done a lot of work. The book Constitution Study is really close to being ready to go. I'll have more information about that as it becomes available. But most of all, I hope you'll ask questions. I hope we'll discuss and debate. I hope you'll read and study. And I truly hope to see you again the next time on the Constitution Study.